Well,
So I don't
the
know
thing
how.
is, Arturo was saying that he didn't want to make it seem like I was doing another presidential address.
Oh, he told you he thought it sounded like that?
Yeah, and I'm like,
No.
I just think it's not. I mean, I'm fine with it as is.
We think that you're a beautiful
Do you know
speaker.
that they gave you these remarks? Just so they think you can pull them off. But
Okay.
whatever you want to
No,
do,
I
you
could
tell
do
us.
it. If we can just raise it up. Can we raise these up or no?
Uh,
Higher?
I can speak with the attorney. Attorney's like one
Okay.
in the middle.
Are they too low?
Yeah, it's too low for me.
Yeah, you're tall.
So way too fast.
So, any further questions? You're good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. You got this.
We can do it taller, but then we won't have,
I don't see like.
I don't know if we can adjust it
You
to
can't see
show,
because of the
so
thing?
shall we
Oh no, I could see this one.
his
I mean, I could
Hello,
see.
welcome.
Hi, I could see this one. This one's just.
a little bit
It
lower?
cuts off.
I can have Rudy adjust it for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you shouldn't, if you can see that one and not that one, it should be okay for the other speakers.
Cool,
Give me
okay.
your badge here on your seat so that when the photos come out, you look good. All right, so the only thing is we'll have Rudy and Alejandra really quickly so they can join you. They each have one quick line.
They do the cake. The cake's coming out.
The cake, so the cake is coming from stage left. The Broadway singer is coming from stage left.
Perfect.
You are coming from stage right.
Yeah.
And Alejandra and
Everybody else is coming from stage right.
Okay. Okay.
all right. Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, let me go.
I mean, I'll just do it.
You got this.
No.
You're natural.
We are.
This is Rudy. He's in charge of
I just need a tad higher. Oh shit, that's perfect.
Nice. That's what we strive for.
This one too?
Yeah.
We're gonna screw
Just
over-
I
we're gonna
want.
screw over the
No,
short
we don't want you to do that either.
Screw. I mean, that's perfect. Yep, it's perfect.
So the shorter people will just have to do one of these.
It's just I'm the one that's the only one that's speaking, man. And Arturo.
Oh, really?
I mean, yeah, I have to come out here, but I can just have to dial this down for.
Yeah.
He's pretty tall, so I mean, I don't know if I haven't seen the other speakers.
Right. Well, we can try this, and if we need to.
And then
I mean, they're
Remember Sanchez?
Are they same height?
It's a little bit shorter. Yeah. He's pretty tall.
This is perfect for me.
Oh,
but
I'm glad. But you're our MC, so
I
we
mean,
need to take good care of you.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
I can test it, like since I'm a bit more like.
You wanna look at it?
I just want to see if I can see it. Like I'm smaller than you. I can see that beautifully.
Nice.
So I think
I
it's.
love that beautifully.
Yes.
I can.
Welcome back, everyone. Please find your seats. Our program will begin momentarily. Once again, please find your seats. Our program is about to begin. Once again, we kindly ask everyone to please take their seats as our program is about to begin. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Please take your seats. Our program is about to begin now. Thank you. Now we kindly ask you direct your attention to the podium and please welcome this afternoon's MC, the Honorable Ricardo Lara, California Insurance Commissioner, NALEO Board Member, and past NALEO President.
¿Cómo está mi gente? ¿Cómo los está tratando Nueva York? Qué bárbaro, ¿no? We're all here, so we're doing good. Hola, amigos y amigas y amigues, mi familia. It's a pleasure to be back with you on this stage, to see your wonderful faces again, and yet at another beautiful NALEO conference. Let's give our NALEO staff a round of applause for achieving such a great conference again. You know, I will always remember my time serving as NALEO president fondly. In fact, representing this organization, particularly as the first LGBTQ+ NALEO president, was one of the highlights of my career. And we continue to make history with the leadership of this wonderful organization. You know, during my time in this leadership position, I was able to experience 3 annual conferences, including our virtual conferences, remember those? Which were really a major technological feat for our organization. But in true NALEO style, siempre salimos adelante. And you know, I had both the privilege and the responsibility of serving as NALEO's president during the COVID-19 pandemic, as the board called me, the COVID president. You know, during my time in this role, I was humbled to witness the unparalleled dedication of the NALEO board members and of course our staff, who worked tirelessly to bring our nation's Latino leaders timely and essential learning opportunities during a worldwide health emergency. The not one, but 2 virtual conferences that took place during my tenure created and provided a pandemic leadership roadmap, I would say, which consisted of tools to help Latinos, elected and appointed officials like me, lead during this unprecedented situation that we all experienced. Through this work and through the NALEO network, the organization also fostered an outlet for our nation's Latino elected and appointed officials to really connect with one another, to lean on one another, and engage with each other as Latino leaders throughout this beautiful country of ours, and leading in this time of extreme crisis. You know, as elected officials, you know, I've always stressed that as policymakers, you cannot pour from an empty cup. Self-care is crucial in order for us to do our jobs well. And I truly believe that engaging with the NALEO network really became a form of self-help for so many of our nation's Latino leaders during the pandemic and beyond. So it is critical that now we stay connected after this conference, to lean on each other, to learn from each other, so that we're all working together to that same goal, which is providing quality representation, not only to our Latino communities, but to every single American. So you know, each year, the NALEO annual conference continues to be such an exciting time for us. From the location, ¿qué tal? You're in the heart of everything here, baby. And to our speakers, to the sessions, each conference has its own distinct quality and memorable moments. Obviously, for us, the virtual NALEO annual conferences will always hold a special place in my heart because they became deeply representative of what NALEO and the NALEO Educational Fund stand for, finding a way. This is the same message we have echoed to our nation's leaders, to find a way to get things done when we don't agree on everything. And when the global pandemic hit, NALEO found a way to maintain our standards and continue to serving our nation's Latino elected and appointed officials from across the country and from across the aisle. We never let up, we never wavered, and that's because you never let up by continuing to show up for your constituents through lockdowns, infection spikes, the national reckoning on race in America, a decennial census, and a transition of executive power all at the same time, people. I mean, it was a lot. You know, through all of this, NALEO's work remained vital to the success of our Latino and elected appointed officials and to the communities that we serve. We know that the pandemic hit our community particularly hard, and we have not forgotten. As I've said before, parents had to become both teachers and providers. Latinos labored in the fields to put food on our tables. We cared for COVID-19 patients. We delivered groceries and meals, and we worked warehouses and distribution lines, all while our community was disproportionately affected by this pandemic. We were on the front lines, serving the nation in every industry throughout every part of the country, helping keep our nation afloat. Despite these challenges, you all and all our NALEO board members and our NALEO members never, ever wavered. And it was an honor to lead and to serve the organization during such a tumultuous time. I want to just take a moment to recognize all of our local elected officials that worked throughout the pandemic and really showed tremendous leadership, because you were the face of not only of our membership, but of what leadership looks like in time of extreme need. So let's give all of our local electeds a round of applause for their leadership. We will remain forever grateful for the resiliency of the NALEO board members, the staff, and for the support of each of you, our NALEO familia, who ensured our success through the pandemic and beyond. So through all your strategic planning, adaptation, and recreation, we have emerged stronger more than ever. What do you think? ¿A poco no? ¿Qué dijeron? Que nos íbamos a caer, no? So here's to you. I'm grateful to be here with you all again in person in beautiful New York City, and I can't wait to see what this incredible organization has in store for the next NALEO conference, the 41st annual conference. And if I'm not mistaken, you might be getting a sneak peek today on where that will be sooner than later, so stay tuned for that. But before we continue, I want to bring two of my amigas, you already met them, dos chingonas, on stage for something special really quick. Mi comadre Luby, Alejandra, come out here.
Buenas tardes, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you had a great second day of our NALEO conference, but you know, there's a reason why we're here this afternoon. Someone told us that it is someone's special birthday today, right?
Hey, can anyone take a guess? Well, who could it be? Well, we wanted to make sure we recognize this person on their special day for everything they do, not only for us, but this organization.
And with that, please, Arturo, can you please come up to the stage? This is a total surprise.
Now, everyone, please join me in singing Happy Birthday to Arturo.
Una,
Dos y tres.
happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Arturo. Happy birthday to you.
Can you do it again?
1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Cha cha cha. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Arturo. Happy birthday to you. Que lo muerda, que lo muerda. Están muy desafinados, qué bárbaro. ¡Que viva Arturo Vargas! I'm inviting you to all the Lara family parties now, from now on. But for now, we're here in New York City, right in the heart of the theater district, and what a better way to celebrate than with a special gift of music and culture. So everyone, please help me welcome on stage, from the original cast of the hit Broadway musical, On Your Feet, in the role of Gloria Estefan, as well as the role of Dr. Valentina Castro on Netflix media drama, The New Amsterdam, Theater World and two-time Drama League Award winner, Ana Villafañe.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for having me today. Happy birthday, Arturo. Where did he go? You just walked by me like twice, and I was like, trying to just... I was listening to my grandfather in my head saying, multiplícate por cero. Just trying to disimuladamente stand there. Happy birthday, and in celebration of all that you do for us, being proudly cubana y salvadoreña, and on behalf, thank you, and for all of you and all of the work that you do, for which I am eternally grateful, I just wanted to be here and share a song that you'll probably recognize by La Reina de la Conga herself. Anything for you, though you're not here. Since you said we're through, it seems like years. Time keeps dragging on, and forever been and gone. Still I can't figure what went wrong. I'd still do anything for you. I'll play your game. You hurt me through and through, but you can have your way. I can pretend each time I see you that I don't care and I don't need you. And though you'll never see me crying, you know inside I feel like dying. I'd still do anything for you. In spite of it all, I've learned so much from you. You made me strong, but don't you ever think that I don't love you. That for 1 minute I forgot you, but sometimes things don't work out right, and you just have to say goodbye. I hope you find someone to please you, someone who'll care and never leave you. But if that someone ever hurts you, you just might need a friend to turn to. And I'd do anything for you. I'd give you up if that's what I should do to make you happy. I can pretend each time I see you that I don't care and I don't need you. And though inside I feel like dying, you know you'll never see me crying. But don't you ever think that I don't love you, that for 1 minute I forgot you. But sometimes things don't work out right, and you just have to say goodbye. Don't wanna say goodbye. Anything for you. Happy birthday. Thank you. Mil gracias por todo.
That was beautiful. So I want to just, we had 100 more people show up today than yesterday, so which is a good thing. Todos vinieron a la carnita asada, parece. And so if you have, we're going to feed everybody, don't worry. But if there's an empty chair in your table, can you raise your hand so that we can have some folks, there's some folks waiting to be seated in the back. Aquí en Wells Fargo, por acá también hay otros. Aquí somos todos familia, aquí estamos apretados, pero aquí vamos a caber todos. Perfect. Thank you again, and I'm sorry for those folks that weren't able to find a chair earlier. So, thank you again so much, Ana. Let's give Ana another round of applause for that incredible performance. I also want to thank you, Ari Safar, for helping organize this birthday surprise for our CEO, Arturo Vargas. Again, happy birthday, Arturo. You mean the world to so many of us. Mil gracias for all the work that you do. I also just want to thank all the Latinos on Broadway representing our community and for bringing the power of theater and music to everyone. Let's give our Latinos brothers and sisters and on Broadway a big round of applause. And go support them. I also want to just take another moment to thank, as you know, our incredible wait staff, our servers, our hotel staff, los servidores, los trabajadores del hotel. Let's give them a standing ovation for what they do. They are the heart and soul of our industry, and we know that so many of them are Latinos. Mil gracias to our servers, to the hotel staff. We see you. We appreciate you. Thank you. Once again, the grandeur of this conference year after year is only achievable with the dedication of our generous sponsors. And I'd like to introduce to you a representative here on behalf of our senatorial sponsor and our plenary host, Amazon, a good friend of mine, Mr. John Tang, Amazon's California Public Policy Manager. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Tang.
Buenos dias. Happy birthday, Arturo. Thank you, Commissioner Lara. Let's give it one more time for California Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara. This gathering, the largest gathering of Latino elected officials, is only made possible by this amazing organization. NALEO's success is powered by its people, so let's give a round of applause for the incredible board and staff for their leadership. Hello, everyone. I'm John Tang with Amazon, and I'm honored to be here for the same reason that brings us all here today, the aim to strengthen and uplift our communities. It's wonderful to see so many friends and meet new ones. For me, it's always been about the connections that we all make here. It's all about making those connections and going back to our communities and finding ways for us to collaborate and make a positive impact. At Amazon, we value the opportunity to be a force for good in the lives of our customers and in our communities. Our investments go far beyond creating jobs. We're also about empowering small and medium-sized businesses that sell on our Amazon platform. We bring the same innovation and energy to our neighborhoods and our cities that we do to our work every single day. That is why we're tackling food insecurity across our communities with thousands of pounds of food donated to local food banks in partnership with Amazon Fresh Stores, Whole Foods, and Feeding America. We're inspiring students and adult learners through tech education with college scholarships and computer science programs through our Amazon Future Engineers program. These are just some of the issues we continue to work on because we know that our business is only as good as the communities we serve. We are proud to be here with NALEO today, and on this final day of the conference, I wish you all safe travels back home. If you thought New York was hot, I hope you had a chance to check out some of the hottest deals on Prime Day yesterday. And if you did any shopping on Prime Day while you were here, I hope you return home with some nice packages at your doorstep. Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Thank you again, Amazon and Mr. Tang, for those great remarks. I definitely have the pings already, several packages in my front door. Before I introduce our next presenter, I'd like to take a moment to honor some of the people behind this incredible organization, specifically our NALEO and NALEO Educational Fund board members who volunteer their time to guide the organization towards its goals and help it achieve its important mission. As a past NALEO president and current board member, I can definitely say that this role is deeply rewarding. It's really a privilege to empower and serve the Latino community throughout the work that NALEO does and the NALEO Educational Fund as well. That is why I'm thrilled to bring another good friend of mine, I was keeping it PC, to the stage, the Honorable Jeffrey Sanchez, former Massachusetts State Representative, Instructor of Health Policy and Management, ay, eres profesor, compadre, at the Harvard T-Chan School of Public, todo el mundo, only in America, baby, School of Public Health, and the NALEO Board Nominations Committee Chair, to announce the departing and our new NALEO board members and officers. Jeffrey?
Buenas tardes, and you know, being a pinch hitter over here for our incredible insurance commissioner, Ricardo Lara, is a tough thing to do. And I'm so grateful to have been serving on this board with him for so long. You know, the incredible thing about NALEO is that NALEO brings us together in very profound ways. And the people that you're sitting with today, all of you members, are going to be your lifetime friends. And the things that all of you are going to accomplish together are going to be absolutely incredible. So thank you for all of your service and becoming members of this organization, of which we hope all of you will become lifetime members. But in this moment right now, I would like to first thank the 6 board members who are completing their board service this Saturday, July 12th. Harris County, Texas Sheriff Ed Gonzalez, former Rhode Island Secretary of State Nelly Gorbea, the California Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara, Canutillo Independent School District Texas Board Trustee Member Armando Rodriguez, and San Diego County Supervisor Chairwoman Nora Vargas, and yes, and yours truly. Let's give these board members a round of applause for their commitment and their service. But we know, you know, the thing about NALEO is, you know, no estamos en junta, pero you're not going to be able to get rid of us, you know. Estamos en familia aquí con todos ustedes. And to our departing board members, your contributions will always be remembered, and you will always be a part of this Latino NALEO family. Also, the committee also issued a call for nominations to fill these vacancies, and we've received over 33 incredible nominations of incredibly powerful Latinos that wanted to engage in the board member. But and it was a difficult process to try and get to what we have because everybody's so incredible. But we're now pleased to present the following nominees for the election to the board for the class of 2026 in the first term. It's Illinois State Senator Omar Aquino. It's Texas State Senator Cesar Blanco. It's Manor Independent School District School Board Trustee Ana Cortez. It is Rhode Island State General Treasurer James Diosa. It's the City of Downey, California, Mayor Claudia Marroquin Frometa. The City of Yorba Linda, California, Mayor Eugene Hernandez. And from my home state of Massachusetts, Lawrence, Massachusetts, City Councilor Giovanni Rodriguez. Please give these new members a round of applause. And to all of you new board members, I think all of us in the existing board, we have 3 pieces of advice for you. Learn as much as you can, because as board members, you're a thought leader, you're your community leader, but with all this knowledge you have to offer, remember that each of your fellow board members is held in equal regard. So use your time serving on this board to learn from your esteemed peers. Number 2, lean on each other. The NALEO networks extends to our board members as well, and if you have any questions for guidance or need of anything, your board members are there for you. And finally, remember to check in with yourself. For all of us here, practicing self-care is crucial. Uno se tiene que cuidar para poder cuidar a los demás. Y nosotros dependemos mucho unos al otro y es importante que nosotros nos cuidemos. Y especialmente porque las comunidades de ustedes son ventajas de cuando ustedes están en óptima capacidad. So thank you for everything that you're doing, and I'm really delighted that this committee is also pleased to nominate our current slate of officers to serve an additional one-year term in their current posts for the 2023-2024 term, and that is our President of Miami-Dade Commission on Women, the board member, Louis Navarro, who was up here a moment ago. As first Vice President, Hudson County, New Jersey Clerk, Junior Maldonado. As second Vice President and New York State Senator, Gustavo Rivera. As Treasurer, as Secretary of City of Downey, California, Mayor Claudia Marroquin Frometa, and as Treasurer, New Mexico Commission of Public Records member Brian Colon. Please, a round of applause for all of the slate that will advance NALEO into the new generation, and we appreciate all the work that you have done and look forward to the work that you will do. And with that, congratulations to all the nominees. We're confident that this organization is going to be in incredible hands, and with the new leadership and continuing leadership this year, there's so much more abound for all of us. And at this moment now, I'll bring back El Rey de la Pradera, Ricardo Lara. Gracias.
Thank you again. Let's give a round of applause to the exiting board members again for their service. Thank you, Board Member Sanchez. It was an honor to serve on the board with you, my brother. Well said. One more. I would like to thank, again, I want to also congratulate the incoming folks for sacrificing their time for this wonderful organization. Thank you for your service, and again, congratulations to everyone. And I hope this really experience is educational and fulfilling like it was for so many of us. So again, thank you to all. Keep going, keep going. And now we want to give you a little tidbit of where you're going to get next year. And here to make a special announcement, please welcome, this took a lot of work, you guys, the king of rock and roll himself, Elvis Presley.
Bright light city, gonna set my soul on fire. There's a whole lot of money that's ready to burn, so get those stakes up higher. There's 1,000 pretty women waiting out there, and they're all living devil may care. And I'm just a devil with love to spare. Let me hear you. Viva Las Vegas! Viva Las Vegas! Viva Las Vegas! Viva, Viva Las Vegas! Viva Las Vegas, ladies and gentlemen. Las Vegas strong. Thank you very much.
And now, joining the king on stage, please help me welcome to the stage the Honorable Felicia Ortiz, President of the Nevada State Board of Education, the Honorable Fabian Doñate, Nevada State Senator and Chair of the Nevada Hispanic Legislative Caucus, and the Honorable Cecilia Gonzalez, Nevada State Assembly Member.
Thank you so much for everyone for joining us today, and of course for NALEO for organizing. If it wasn't clear, I think it's safe to say that Elvis has left the building. But as chair of the Nevada Latino Legislative Caucus, we are excited to announce that next year the conference will be in Las Vegas, Nevada. My colleagues will spend some time highlighting some things that you will get the chance to experience when you join, but we have one rule: you have to pronounce our state right. It's Nevada. But we're very excited to welcome you all, and here to share with you, we have a few things to know as to the experiences that you'll have.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Felicia Ortiz. Some of you may recognize me from our virtual charlas during COVID. I'm excited to bring you all to Vegas. Las Vegas is the home of the national championship NHL Stanley Cup Vegas Golden Knights. Yes, I said hockey in the desert. Also, the Las Vegas Aces, WNBA, we will be bringing this year Formula One and next year Super Bowl. We're also home of 44% of our kiddos are Latino. So you're coming to your home, and our city represents what our country will look like in 2040. So we're excited to host you, and most importantly, excited to host the 41st annual NALEO Annual Conference.
And just as our last word of advice, what happens in Vegas will definitely stay in Vegas. And I know you all know how to party because you were partying till 2 a.m. last night. So we look forward to having you all in Vegas. Viva Las Vegas!
¿Qué les pareció el Elvis? ¿Qué tal, eh? No era Elvis Crespo, era el Elvis de verdad. Y que viva Las Vegas y que viva NALEO, ¿no? ¿Qué tal? Thank you to our Nevada delegation, President Ortiz, Senator Doñate, and Assembly Member Gonzalez for welcoming us next year to your home state. I look forward to seeing you all next summer at the 41st Annual Conference. Also, in the spirit of next year's conference, we would like to announce that the 41st person who registered for this conference is the winner of a raffle, and which comes at a really cool price, I have to say. We're going to cover your airport transportation. You're going to get a room upgrade, and a welcome gift basket for next year's conference at the Bellagio, Las Vegas. And the winner is Trustee Bonnie Nájera from El Paso Community College. ¿Qué tal? Congratulations, Trustee Nájera. Staff is going to be in touch with you shortly. You don't have to come up. It's not the price is right. Calm down. So, everyone, thank you again. Buen provecho. Enjoy your lunch before we begin the next portion of our program. Mil gracias.
right here. I'm just gonna stand here.
Good afternoon. Please take your seats. Our program is about to resume now. Good afternoon. Please take your seats as our program is going to begin now. Please direct your attention to the podium and put your hands together for NALEO and NALEO Educational Fund CEO, Mr. Arturo Vargas.
I'm back. I hope everybody has been enjoying their lunch, and more than anything else, that you have been enjoying the NALEO 40th Annual Conference. So, as has become our tradition at the NALEO Conference as we approach a presidential election year, and during an election year, we invite candidates who are seeking the nomination of the respective parties to come address the leadership of the Latino community. And since our conference in 2003, we have been joined by candidates for the nominations of the respective parties, and also have been joined by presumptive nominees as well during presidential election years. And we fully expect to be joined by the nominees next year in 2024 when we gather in Las Vegas. One of the reasons we're going to be in Nevada, did I say that correctly? Yes? Okay. One of the reasons we are gathering in Nevada is because Nevada is a contested state. It's a swing state, it's a competitive state, and in large measure because of the impact of Latino voters have in Nevada. Nationally, 16.5 million Latinos cast their ballots in election 2020. We have not yet developed our projections for 2024, but I am fully confident that we will be projecting upwards of 20 million or more Latinos to vote in the 2024 election, making up the second largest election voting bloc in the United States. It will be a decisive electorate, and so it is imperative that those who seek to sit in the Oval Office engage with all of you in this room, those of you at the front lines of America's challenges. Now, I know many of you enjoy watching election night coverage, right? Yeah? You stay up all night long, seeing who won which state, what the projections are, who's going to call what. Well, I am very proud to invite up to the stage someone you'll recognize, who I'm sure you follow on election night. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Steve Kornacki, national political correspondent for NBC News and MSNBC, for a special presentation.
All right. Thank you. It's very kind of you. Thank you. You know, you hear election night, and I realize that term doesn't apply anymore. It's election week every time we have, maybe election month, the way these things go. You mentioned Nevada. I know we last November, obviously, if you all remember, Senate control really came down to the Nevada Senate race, and election night was Tuesday, but I think I remember being across the street at 30 Rock late Saturday night. That was when we got the result official from Nevada, so it was 4 days to get the Senate results in 2022, and we didn't call the House till Wednesday after, so 8 days to get the House called. That's the world we live in right now. High interest in elections, a high interest in the election returns, and a deep interest when it comes to election officials, just making sure that they get these votes counted, they get them counted right, and sometimes it can be a long process. So wanted to talk to you a little bit about some of the numbers that I'm looking at, that we're looking at, I'm sure that you're looking at as we head into 2024 here when it comes to the Latino vote, because I think you're at sort of an interesting pivot point here when it comes to the Latino vote. Obviously, we talk every 4 years about how the size of the Latino vote is increasing. The share of the overall vote, of the overall electorate that is Latino, is increasing every 4 years. So you've got that, and then the second factor you got is simply that the evidence from the last presidential election suggests this is becoming a more politically competitive demographic as well. So I think heavy interest from both parties heading into 2024 in terms of where Latino voters are going to go, and from each party's standpoint, how to try to get them to go their way. So to put this in some perspective, I think I got this big screen back at the studio. This thing is about 10 times the size. Let's see how it works here. And okay, our first one came up. It's working. So to put in some perspective, the significance of the changes I was just trying to explain there. Let's go back to 2016. This was Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump. And this is how the Latino vote broke in 2016. 66-28 for Clinton over Trump, nearly 40 points. And that's a very lopsided result. Honestly, I think Democrats in 16 expected this would be even a bigger margin. Republicans expected in many cases this would be a worse margin, but it was still for Republicans and for Trump a pretty bad margin. And it was consistent with what Republicans had seen in 2012 with Mitt Romney, in 2008 with John McCain. Just very lopsided, more than 2-to-1 Democratic advantage. Fast forward to 2020 when Donald Trump ran for re-election, and significant movement here. You know, double-digit gain there for Trump, going from 28 to 38%, nearly up to 40%. Basically, best Republican showing in a presidential election with the Latino vote we've seen in the last 2 decades. And the Democrats there, Joe Biden, falling under 60%. And so this was a huge story, as you all know, heading into the 2022 midterms. One of the big questions being asked was this trend going to continue in the midterms? You know, were Republicans going to be over 40%, or the Democrats was this going to be a single-digit demographic group in the midterm elections in 2022? And we actually did. It's great timing for this. These numbers are coming from the Pew Research Center, which does this great study. Takes them months to do it after every election. And so literally late yesterday afternoon, we got Pew's numbers for the 2022 midterm. To me, these are the best numbers that are out there when you want to understand what happened demographically in any election. They use the validated voters, the folks who actually voted, folks who are actually registered to vote. They take months to study it. Long and the short of it is, here's what Pew tells us happened with the Latino vote in the 2022 midterms. Basically flat with 2020. So if you're writing a novel here, you got a big dramatic cliffhanger heading into 2024, because you saw a seismic, I really think it was a seismic shift in the Latino vote between 16 and 20. It's basically held in 2022, and so it leaves the question heading into 2024, heading into a presidential election year when we all know the electorate is going to look different. A lot of folks vote in a presidential election year who don't vote in a midterm election. So are we going to see another shift toward the Republicans in 2024? Are we going to see a shift back toward the Democrats? Or is this sort of the new normal that's establishing itself among Latino voters? So that's the question that's raised here. When you look at the 2022 midterm numbers here, just in terms of what went into that 60 to 39% split there for Democrats, this is from the exit poll, so this takes us back to election night. But we asked, one of the questions we asked Latino voters, we asked all voters, but I'm just showing you Latino voters here, what was the #1 issue that motivated you in the midterm elections? And abortion among Latino voters actually topping the list at 28%. Remember, this just months after that Supreme Court ruling. Inflation, the #2 issue. Crime, immigration, down at #4. Biggest Democratic advantage on any of these issues, by far and away, was on abortion. Of the 28% of Latinos who cited abortion as their top issue, they broke for the Democrats 87-12. Now, you talk about inflation being #2, those voters broke Democratic, but it was a much closer, a much tighter result there. So there is some evidence, I think, when you look at the 2022 midterms. This is true among Latino voters. This is true in other demographics as well. I think there's some evidence that that Supreme Court ruling with the topic of abortion did bring out some voters, did motivate some voters who support abortion rights to turn out and to vote, and they voted Democratic, who maybe otherwise wouldn't have. And I think it might be part of that 60% that Democrats got with Latino voters, and it might be part of the reason Democrats overall had a better midterm, I think, than they were expecting. Some of the divides, again, looking at this Pew Research, these numbers we just got yesterday that I think are interesting. These are some divides we can see in the 2022 Latino electorate. A gender gap. Among women, Latinos broke 64-34, Democrat over Republican, almost 2-1. Among men, the Democratic advantage was only 13 points. So a significant gender gap there. And again, I think I was showing you on that issue of abortion, that might have tied into this a little bit here, but that's a very big gender gap that you're seeing. Also starting to see, I think this one's interesting, because when you look at the biggest demographic group, obviously it's still white voters. We've been talking about this split among white voters that's really playing a big role in our politics between white voters who have college degrees and white voters who don't have college degrees. White voters with college degrees becoming much more Democratic, white voters without college degrees becoming much more Republican. It's not anywhere near as dramatic among Latino voters, but this is interesting. Again, this is the Pew data from 2022, and you're starting to see it a little bit. Among Latino voters with college degrees, Democrats won by 28 points. Latinos without college degrees, Democrats won by 19 points, so nearly a 10-point difference. Again, among white voters, this thing has exploded over the last 10, 20 years. The gap is much larger, but this is something I think worth watching in 24 and beyond. Are you starting to see that kind of degree divide among Latino voters that we have seen really take root among white voters? I think that's one thing to be looking for, certainly. And the other one is generational. And again, we're seeing this across all demographics here, but I mean, look at this. And again, this is 18 to 49 years old and 50 years and older. And basically, in terms of what these voters make up, half of Latino voters in 2022 were 18 to 49, and about half were 50 and older. But they voted very differently. You can see here 2-1 Democratic on the younger side. The older side, single-digit Democratic advantage there. So a significant age divide as well. Also, I think we talk about this a lot. This is not evenly distributed in terms of, we can show you nationally a 60 to 39% Latino voters going for the Democrats, but it kind of varied by state, by region. There were some interesting state and regional variances here. This is the Latino vote in Arizona. Katie Hobbs, might have some folks from Arizona here. And these were two very, very close races, the governor's race, the Senate race in Arizona. And you can see how the Latino vote broke in Arizona. Republicans didn't quite get the gains they'd been hoping for, and Katie Hobbs was elected governor. Mark Kelly was reelected to the Senate. In Nevada, the Latino vote was more than 60% Democratic. That was enough to help the Democrat Catherine Cortez Masto hold on to her Senate seat. But in the governor's race, the Republican Joe Lombardo actually won. But again, you see 60% plus Latino support for the Democrats in Nevada. That's an interesting sort of threshold to keep in mind as we start looking towards Nevada as a 2024 battleground state. But then the variance, you talk about the variance, take a look at Florida. Look at these numbers. Ron DeSantis, nearly 60% of the Latino vote. That's the first time in 2 decades in Florida the Latino vote has gone Republican, and almost the same, a little bit less, in the Senate race. So, a lot of that movement we talk about that we've been seeing with Latino voters, you can find, it's not all just in Florida, but Florida is one of the epicenters of that movement of Latino voters from Democrats towards Republicans we've been seeing since 2016. In Florida, unlike most other places in the country, it continued into 2022. Interestingly, I think when you really start to look deep, one of the reasons for this, the uniqueness of Florida, just in terms of the demographic mix that goes into when you talk about the Hispanic Latino population, Hispanic Latino demographic in elections in Florida, it's a little bit broader sort of mix than you might see. It's a different mix than you would see in other states, and I think there are political implications for that. So that might be one thing worth considering. But again, I say it's not just Florida. The other place on the map where you saw that sort of shift among Latino voters towards Republicans continue into 2022, it was in South Texas. It was down by the border in South Texas. There are 3 congressional districts here focusing in on. And these were sort of changed a little bit by redistricting heading into 2022. This was a district basically newly created. It had voted for Joe Biden by about a point under these new lines. So it was a real toss-up district. And you see the Republican, Monica De La Cruz, won this thing by nearly 10 points. And this is an area that if you went back just a decade or so, you're looking at Democratic victories of 10, 20, 30 points. Now you're looking at a Republican congresswoman representing the 15th District of Texas. If you look next door to the west, 28th District of Texas here, another border district. Now, the Democrat Henry Cuellar was successful here. He was reelected by 13 points. But I think it's worth noting, Henry Cuellar is probably the most conservative Democrat in the United States House of Representatives. He was challenged in the primary from the left. He won in a squeaker. We're talking a couple hundred votes. And interestingly, if you look at some of the counties that make up this district, these are some of the counties that swung 30, 40, 50 points in Donald Trump's direction between 2016 and 2020. So you could make the case that while Democrats held the 28th District of Texas, they did it by nominating a candidate who's their most conservative member in the House. And if they had gone with his liberal challenger in the primary, there might have been a very different result in this district. Again, I think that success that Cuellar had in the general election speaks to the changing politics of Deep South Texas. And then there was a Democratic victory. Vicente Gonzalez, he had been representing the district next door. He didn't like the changes to that district in redistricting, so he moved next door. Mayra Flores had won a special election. This was a sort of a messy situation. The Democrats were successful here, but again, this is a district, the way it's drawn, that was voting Democratic by more than 30 points just back in 2016, and now a politically competitive one. I'm keeping an eye on the time here because I don't want to go over it, so I'm going to end on this because I think this is from a Democratic firm. Equus is the name. This is a Democratic data firm, and they did a survey of Latino voters after the November 2022 elections, asking what's coming in 2024. And I put this up because I think it's interesting. They noted that the composition of the electorate, of the Latino electorate, this is true of every group, but it's particularly true among Latinos. It's changed dramatically. 2016, 2018, 2020, 2022. Very different folks are voting, are staying home, are voting. And so what they asked specifically, they asked Latinos who had voted in 2020 but had not voted in 2022 and had not voted in 2018. They skipped the midterm election. These are voters who skipped the midterm elections and voted only in the presidential. So in other words, you're trying to get a look at the voters who sat out last year, but hey, they voted in 20, good chance they're probably going to vote in 24, right? And they asked them, in 24, if your choice is Joe Biden or a generic Republican, they didn't put a name on it, but they said, Biden or a generic Republican, who would you go for? A very interesting, now look, there will be a Republican name and that can change things ultimately, but as a baseline, it suggests that a lot of the Latino voters who participated in 20 and sat out the 22 midterms are part of that push between 16 and 20 toward the right, toward the Republican Party, and it suggests a possibility heading into 24. Hey, I just showed you. Hot off the presses, it was 60 to 39 among Latinos for Democrats in 2022. There's a possibility when you look at a number like this, there's an opening for Republicans to shrink that gap further in 2024. And if they do, obviously, it has huge implications in Nevada, in areas, in obvious places that has huge electoral college implications, has huge implications for the national popular vote, and really has huge implications for the future of our politics. Because again, I don't need to tell you this, but the Latino vote grows every 4 years, grows with every election. And if it's also becoming more politically competitive, a lot of the dynamics about how we talk about the Latino vote, how politicians pursue it, how both parties view it, I think could change. I'll close on 30 seconds here with one final note from this Pew study that I thought was very interesting in terms of this increasing competitiveness of the Latino vote. They looked at the composition of both political parties, the Democrats and the Republicans, as of 2022. What percentage of all Democratic voters out there are Latino? 11%. 11% of the Democratic Party, basically, in terms of its voters, is Latino. Of the Republican Party and all of its voters in 22, what percentage are Latino? Smaller, but not that much smaller, 7. So 11% of the Democratic Party, 7% of the Republican Party. So again, it speaks to that increasing competition, and I think that was something that was 2020 kind of got everybody's attention on, and I think it is one of the biggest questions, one that I'm going to be paying the most attention to, and I'm sure a lot of people here will too, in 24. What happens with the Latino vote? Does it continue to change? Does it continue to shift? So tune in to NBC, MSNBC, Telemundo, I hope, and I'll see you the next election night. Take care. Thank you.
Okay, just a quick reminder about the acoustics of the room. We do need to keep your conversations at the tables down because it does reverberate up on the stage and it's difficult for some people to hear. So, as I said at the top of this segment, the NALEO conference has become traditionally a place for presidential candidates to come address the nation's Latino leadership. We do it in the years prior to a presidential election and in a presidential election as well. This year, the NALEO Educational Fund made its candidate invitation decisions for this forum on the basis of some pre-established criteria. Under the 2023 criteria that we established to receive an invitation to be with us here today, the candidates must, 1, be constitutionally eligible to hold the office of President of the United States, have officially filed and registered as a candidate for president with the Federal Elections Commission, and be a Latino candidate or have a level of support of at least 2% of the national electorate as determined by 3 or more national public opinion polling organizations using the average of those organizations' most recently publicly reported results at the time of the determination. So we issued invitations to President Joe Biden. Now, he appeared here via video as president, not as candidate. Former President Donald Trump, former Vice President Mike Pence, U.S. Senator Tim Scott, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Nikki Haley, former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy, and former Congressman Bill Hurd. We received our invitation was accepted by 3 candidates. So now it's my pleasure to present our first candidate here to address you. Please welcome to the stage Ms. Marianne Williamson. Ms. Marianne Williamson is a political activist, author, non-denominational spiritual lecturer, and New York Times best-selling author. Ms. Williamson.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It is an honor to be here. The last speaker was analyzing for us what is, and I am concerned as a candidate with what could be in this country. And that's what I'd like to talk to you about today. I feel that Americans have been trained to limit our political imaginations. And while we have as much spirit, we have as much entrepreneurial genius, our children have as much God-given potential as at any time in history, there is a way in which our young people particularly feel that their dreams are being thwarted rather than supported. You know, one of the foundational principles of the United States is that out of many, one, e pluribus unum. We are many different cultures, different ethnicities. We came from different places. Our ancestors came from different places. But we are united by certain common principles. And these common principles are that which made us or our ancestors come here to begin with. We honor our ancestors, we honor our own journeys that have brought us here, and we want these same things to be actualized in the lives of our children. Steve Karnacki was saying just a few minutes ago that if you actually look at statistics, if you actually look at the numbers, it's not necessarily looking so good for Joe Biden in 2024. I would like to remind you, Joe Biden is not the only Democratic candidate. The reason Joe Biden isn't doing well among any group, whether it is Latino or anyone else, in my opinion, is because the Democratic Party needs to remember why we exist. The Democratic Party should be standing in unequivocal and unabashed support of the working people of the United States. I don't care whether you're Latino or any other group. You want your children to go to the best schools. That's why I want a Department of Children and Youth. We don't even know the mental health crisis we have now. What kind of mental health crisis are we going to have 20 years from now, when an entire generation has grown up who, as children, prayed every morning that they would not get shot at school? We need a massive transfer of resources into the lives of our children. I have met elementary school principals who tell me that they have elementary school students on suicide watch. Whether you are Latino or any other group, America's children are in crisis, and we must stand for them. Whether you're Latino or any other group, you want government to pass policies that help you and your children thrive. This is why the Democratic Party in 2024 should be supporting universal health care, Medicare for all. This is why the Democratic Party should be supporting in 2024, and if I am the candidate, will, tuition-free college and tech schools. These are both things that they have in every other advanced democracy. This is why, whether we are Latino, whether we are Jewish, whether we are any other ethnicity, any other religion, we came here so that we could thrive, so that our children could thrive. That's why we should have universal health care. That's why we should have tuition-free college. That's why we should have paid family leave. That's why we should have a guaranteed living wage. 1/3 of America's workforce lives on less than $15 an hour. And the living wage in most American cities is between $24 and $25 an hour. How many of those 1/3 cannot even find a place to live? And it is a national shame, an immorality, and a horror in this country that there are so many people, so many Latinos and others, immigrating to this country and being forced to live in the shadows. The idea of demonizing anyone, the idea of government not supporting anyone and everyone in living the dreams that exist in their heart. This is what government should be. Government should be a generator of policies that actually align with the deep humanitarian and democratic values of our Declaration of Independence. That is what made our ancestors come here. That is what makes all of us want to be here. The very idea that all men are created equal. The very idea that God gave all men the inalienable rights of life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. The very idea, as it is stated in the Declaration of Independence, that it is the job of government. Government is instituted to secure those rights. Government is not instituted to just hear an analysis of what works. Government should not be following. Government should be leading the American people. Legislators should not just be thinking in terms of what their donors want, and legislators should not just be thinking in terms of what might win. Legislators, anyone in any official position, should be thinking, what is my heart calling me to do? It is a service job to be in government. Our hearts are leading. Our hearts are calling us to a new beginning in the United States, and that must include a new economic beginning. That is why we need an economic U-turn in this country. For in the last 50 years, there has been a massive transfer of wealth to the tune of $50 trillion into the hands of 1% of Americans. We have done so much to add resources to those who already have, to make it easier for those who already have, and to make it harder for those who are struggling to make it. Whether those who are struggling to make it are Latino or anyone else, I know as a Jewish American, yes, I am concerned about issues that relate to Jews. But the most important thing in my life right now is not just the Jewish American Jewish, but the Jewish American I am an American. And I think all of us, while we must be concerned about our own people and our own ethnicity, all of us are called to something by the very fact that we are American. And no matter what happens, if people cannot live, if people are rationing their insulin, if 1 in 4 Americans are living with medical debt, if children are shackled by these college loans, if the American parent is worried, always worried about how we're even going to send our children to college. I want to remind everyone here that in the 1970s, the average American worker could afford a home. The average American worker could afford a car. The average American worker could afford a yearly vacation, and the average American worker could afford to send their kids to college. We had tuition-free colleges, public colleges and universities until the 1970s. Florida had a magnificent system. Texas had a magnificent system. California had a magnificent system. The only reason we don't have universal health care is because of the greed of the insurance companies. And the only reason people are rationing their insulin is because of the greed of the pharmaceutical companies. The only reason we have this threat to all of our children that their children and their children's children might not even be living on a habitable planet is because of the greed of the big oil companies. And the only reason too many of our own young people are being sent off to fight in some wars that should never have been fought is because of the greed of the defense industry. All of us, no matter how we got here, no matter how our ancestors got here or why, are part of the golden thread now. And nobody who knows anything about Latino culture in the United States doubts the fact that the Latino culture in the United States is one of the most golden threads. And so the entrepreneurialism of Latino America, the fact that that population is growing is a good thing for Americans. My father was an immigration lawyer, a well-known one down in Houston. My brother is an immigration lawyer. My brother worked for Cesar Chavez. My father was a labor organizer with what was then the CIO in Detroit, Michigan. I have been close in my entire life. When I was a child, when my parents used to take me down in Houston and see the citizenship ceremonies by which people became citizens. And I saw many people from Latino culture who were just becoming citizens. And my parents would remind me and say that this is who your grandparents were, coming from Russia where they were oppressed as Jews. This is so important for us to realize. It's so important for us to realize what many people from Latin Americans are coming for now. It's important for us as Latinos and as any other aspect of Americans to take responsibility in our own hearts and in our own minds and to think deeply about how American foreign policy in Latin America over the last few decades has contributed to the destabilization of economies in countries in Latin America. It is important for us to realize how our own foreign policies have made things more difficult, have contributed to the situations now. And if I'm President of the United States, I can tell you this. People who are leaving Latin American countries because of the trauma of what they are going through with the drug cartels, you make me president, they're not going to be re-traumatized when they come to the U.S. border. They're not going to be re-traumatized. There's not going to be an impervious wall, my God. No, there's going to be more ways, in the ways that Congress should have been taking care of for decades now, to make sure that legal immigration is possible. You will not have people, when I am President of the United States, forced to live in the shadows. Doing more of this demonization of the immigrant, this demonization of the immigrant as though they are taking. No, let's be clear, they are giving. They are giving more to the American society than American society is giving to them. People forced to live in the shadows. People told, just come and register, but if they go and register, they don't know if they'll even be picked up. People told that you can have the path to citizenship, but first you have to go back to your country and might have to stay there for 10 years, separated from your spouse, separated from your children. This kind of wrong, this is state-sponsored trauma. and in some cases, state-sponsored crime. When children are separated from their parents, that is a state-sponsored crime. When people are detained who have done nothing wrong, that is state-sponsored crime. When people are being forced to live in the shadows, when people are being forced to live in situations that is not what they came here for, that is not in any way aligned with their own God-given brilliance and talent, that is state-sponsored wrong and immorality and injustice economically, socially, criminally, and on every other level. When I'm President of the United States, that stuff will stop. And so I think it's time for all of us to ask ourselves, how can we contribute? How can we contribute to a new beginning in the United States? I see too many people, particularly too many young people, who are depressed, who are anxious, who are feeling cynical, who are not feeling that they love this country, and in too many cases they don't feel that they love this country because they have not experienced a government that truly supports them. That is how we make this country what it can be. Franklin Roosevelt said that we would never have to worry about a fascist takeover in this country as long as democracy delivered on its promises. Right now, that's what we need to be thinking about. How can democracy deliver on its promises? And I hope you feel that some of the things I talked about today would be an example. Give people universal health care. Give people tuition-free college and tech school. Give people help with child care. Give people paid family leave. Give people guaranteed sick pay. Give people a guaranteed living wage. Remember, this is not free stuff. There are tax dollars who are paying for these things. If we want America to thrive, help Americans thrive. And Latino culture is growing. It's growing in population. It's growing in wealth. It's growing in vigor. It's growing in power. And I know, I've seen it up close. The best thing that can happen in America now is that Latinos continue to expand their own political imaginations, not only for their own people, but for Americans at large. Because in the final analysis, that is what matters here. Not the word that comes before American, but as much as anything else, what matters is that we are Americans. Out of many, we are one. We are a fabric. We are a tapestry. You don't have to be Latino to know that the Latino thread is a golden one. And my prayer and my hope, as with you, is that it be more powerful, that it grow in power, that it grow in sustenance, that it grow in justice. Because deep in my heart, I'm very clear. If that occurs, America will be better off. Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williamson. Our next candidate is going to join us virtually but live from Miami. Francis Javier Suarez is an American lawyer and politician serving as the 43rd mayor of Miami since 2017. He was most recently elected in 2021. Please welcome Mayor Francis Suarez.
Thank you, Arturo. And I also want to thank Luby Navarro for organizing this event and for inviting me to speak at NALEO this year. I'm honored to share this time with all of you. You are more than friends, you are family. As mayor of Miami and as the past president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, I have been blessed to share in the story of the growing role of Latinos in every part of our country. Many of you may be wondering who I am. I want you to know that I am the son of 2 Cuban exiles and the grandson of one of the many political prisoners of Fidel Castro. My parents fled communist Cuba as children, aged 7 and 12, seeking a free and prosperous future. So many in our country and hemisphere are facing similar choices for themselves and their families. Let us reflect for a moment on what it takes for someone to have to make such a monumental decision, so fraught with its own risks to themselves and their families. It is clear that our strategies and systems are not equipped to deal with these realities. As the son of 2 immigrants, I am honored to be the only Hispanic or Latino candidate for president from either political party. As I have traveled the country I continue to see how important our communities are to the economy, to culture, and the politics of this country. I firmly believe that a Hispanic Republican president would be in a unique position to understand the issues facing our community and our country. First, we are not a monolith. I believe that our strength is in our uniqueness as different people who come from different countries and each have a different story to tell. Every story is an American story with a dream and a destiny and a drive to contribute and live in freedom. We may have some common DNA, culture, and language, but our stories are as varied as our dreams. But what unifies us is powerful. A dream, no, a belief that in America, we are only limited by our abilities and by hard work. We are also powerful. As you heard from some of the polling information that was shared with you earlier, no president can talk about winning the presidency when the last two presidential elections have been decided by less than 100,000 votes without inspiring and motivating the Hispanic community, which now constitutes 20% of the country, or roughly 60 million people. You heard the breakdowns in both the Democrat and Republican Party. Make no mistake, the road to the White House now passes through our neighborhoods. Toss-up states like Arizona, Nevada, and New Mexico are not the only places where Hispanic voters are key to the election. In Iowa, you will find 100,000 new Hispanic voters on the election rolls who are about to make their choices heard for the first time. If our policies are tailored and targeted electorally to ensure this growing minority, which is a minority group of Americans, feel welcomed, valued, and respected, then it could create a generational opportunity for the party or the candidate that gets it right. Third, we must, once and for all, fix our broken multi-decade, multi-administration immigration system. We cannot do it by demonizing immigrants of Latin or Hispanic background simply because they dare to have their own American dream. Hispanics are law-abiding and God-fearing people, and our laws must serve our country by serving those who seek its dream and contribute to its prosperity. We must right-size legal immigration by moving forward, not by trying to open up the Constitution or go backwards. We must tie legal immigration to objective metrics like unemployment, the targeted needs for skilled and unskilled workers, and the challenge of a declining birth rate. This will ensure a legal and orderly process for people to come to this country to work legally without competing with American workers unfairly or working without common sense worker protections, a fair compromise that will benefit all Americans. This cannot happen unless we first secure our borders that have become tragic examples of cartels preying on the most vulnerable by promoting human trafficking and becoming conduits for the flooding of our cities with deadly fentanyl. Every Republican and Democrat can agree with this position, and many Republican and Democrat mayors have already stated it. We must have a coherent strategy to contain China's interference in our hemisphere and push back on the rise of socialism, which only promotes poverty through empty promises. Finally, I am convinced that a Republican, Hispanic, Latino president could be in the best position to negotiate with Congress on how we manage the over 10 million undocumented people living in the United States that have come illegally into our country. As Latinos, we have a generational opportunity to shape the future of this country. In me, you will have a friend, un hermano, and an advocate. Someone who knows you, understands you, values you, and respects you. Someone who will never take you for granted or forget you. Tienen alguien que nunca se olvidará de la importancia de la comunidad hispana en la Casa Blanca. Tienen en mí alguien que entiende que esta comunidad es rica por donde se la mira. Trabajadores incansables, destacados profesionales y gente de familia. Tienen en mí a alguien que puede resolver un problema de décadas el sistema migratorio ineficiente que tenemos, pero que entiende que los hispanos somos mucho más que inmigración. Somos los mayores dueños de pequeños negocios en este país. Somos una comunidad preocupada por el incremento de impuestos y déficit desmedido de nuestra nación. Somos una comunidad que sufre cuando nuestras calles no están seguras y nuestras opciones escolares son limitadas. Tienen en mí al único candidato en esta contienda que no solo puede hablarles de los temas que les preocupan, sino que además puede escucharlos para buscar verdaderas soluciones. Thank you all for having me today. Thank you all for what you do for your communities. And God bless each and every one of you, and may God continue to bless this great country of the United States of America. Thank you. Muchísimas gracias por su atención.
Thank you, Mayor Suarez, for joining us live from Miami. Our third and final candidate is Robert F. Kennedy, Jr., an attorney who has devoted himself to environmental causes and children's welfare. He is the founder of the Waterkeeper Alliance and the Children's Health Defense.
I'm very, very happy to be here. I have so much to talk about with this crowd and so little time to do it. So I think what I'm going to do is just tell you a story. And I'm going to start by talking about my uncle and my father, for whom the welfare of Hispanic Americans and our relationships with Latin America were one of the premier priorities of their administration. When my uncle came into office, as most of you probably know, the prevailing strategy toward Latin America was to prevent, this was the height of the Cold War, was to prevent the growth of communism. And so the US policy was to aid juntas, military governments that expressed a strong anti-communist ideology, and the oligarchies, often feudal oligarchies in those countries, who were also rabidly anti-communist. And any kind of nationalist rebellion or attempt to assist the poor was regarded as suspect. My uncle wanted to change that, and so he created the Alliance for Progress. He created USAID, the Peace Corps, the Kennedy Milk Program, which I saw evidence during many, many years of traveling around Latin America of the beneficial impacts of those programs during his administration. He made friendships. His objective was to give aid directly to the poor to grow middle classes in these countries, which were the backbone of democracy. He knew that every social and political scientist would tell you that the configuration of having very, very wealthy class above and widespread poverty below was too unstable to support democracy. My father and uncle said repeatedly, there is going to be a revolution in Latin America, and it's either going to be owned by the communists if we continue to put our boot on the necks of the poor, or it's going to be owned for us if we begin to assist the poor and develop a middle class in those countries. And that was their objective. My uncle had 2 trips that he considered the favorite trips of his presidency. One was to Ireland, and the other one was to Colombia. And he met a man that my Aunt Jackie regarded as the most intelligent man in public office anywhere in the world, who was Yves Camargo. And 2.5 million people greeted my uncle in the main plaza in Bogota. And the emotion was so great, many of them were in tears. Yves Camargo said to my uncle, "Do you know why they love you?" And my uncle said, "No." And he said, "Because they believe that you've put the United States on the side of the poor." He made alliances with the progressive leaders in Chile, with Frey in Chile, with Betancourt in Venezuela, with Figueres, very, very strong personal friendships in Costa Rica. When, after my uncle died in '63, November of '63, my father's first break with the Johnson administration, most people think my father broke with Johnson over the Vietnam War, but he really broke over what he considered the hijacking of USAID and the Alliance for Progress by the US intelligence agencies and by the large multinational corporations. And he was very dismayed by that. My father made this tour, which angered the Johnson administration. During that tour, he said something very controversial. He advised intellectuals and government officials in Peru and Brazil and in Chile that they should consider nationalizing Anaconda Wire and Cable, IT&T, and Standard Oil. This was something nobody had ever heard from an American politician before. After my father died in 1963, that interest in Latin America was part of my DNA. By the way, my father's closest, probably most important political alliance was with Cesar Chavez, who helped him win the California primary during the last day of his life, and who remained a very, very close friend of mine for most of my adult life. I worked very closely with him on pesticide issues, and his family honored me by asking me to be a pallbearer in his funeral. But I spent a lot of time after my dad died, I was 14 years old the following summer. I spent in Colombia working on a finca on Los Llanos. I went to Latin America over 15 times before I was 25 years old. My senior year in high school, I spent living in Peru in un pueblo pequeño, se llama Ilave, cerca del lago Titicaca. I was in Chile in 1973 during the Colonel's coup. I was writing there about Latin American policy for the Atlantic Monthly. I had to escape over the Andes, putting sealskins on my skis. I was shot at by the border officials, but that's not the story I'm going to tell you about. I want to tell you a story because today is my son's birthday, Aiden Villegas Kennedy, and he is 23 today. Or 22 today. And the first time I saw him, I was in a maximum security prison in Puerto Rico. So where I spent the entire summer of 2001. And the way that I ended up there is that my friend Dennis Rivera, who was the head of SEIU, the biggest labor union in this country, asked me to represent 10,000 residents of the island of Villegas in a lawsuit against the United States Navy to stop the bombing, which was illegal. I lost that case in the federal court in Puerto Rico in front of a judge named Lafitte, who became a nemesis for me over the next several years. But I went and appealed it to the First Circuit in Boston, got Judge Lafitte reversed, and then I went back to Puerto Rico with it, asking him to give me an injunction against further bombing. The people of Villegas were among the poorest in the Caribbean. They have a 60% unemployment rate. They have the highest cancer rate in the Americas because of the carcinogenic components of the detonation of naval ordnance, antimony, arsenic, lead, benzene, toluene, xylene, and many others. They're very contaminated with it. Their food is contaminated with it. And so we won the injunction. I tried to then, when the Navy came back, I tried to present the injunction through Judge Lafitte to get him to affirm it, and he was nowhere to be found. And the Navy went on bombing. The mayor of Villegas asked me to do a civil disobedience, to go and invade the island. At that point, there were a number of people, a lot of people doing that. And I reluctantly agreed, because I was an officer for the court. You're not supposed to break the law. But because of the circumstance, I agreed to do it. And Dennis Rivera said to me, do you have any friends who are famous Latinos who would join in doing the civil disobedience to bring more attention to it? And I said, well, I'm very, very close friends with Edward James Olmos, who's the actor who was in Miami Vice and won an Oscar for Stand and Deliver. And he said, will you call him and see if he will participate? So I called Eddie, and I got him on his cell phone. He was in Buenos Aires making a movie. And I said, where are you? And he said, I'm in Argentina. And I said, then you're off the hook, because I was going to see if you wanted to come with me to get arrested in Puerto Rico this weekend. And he said, no, I'll come. He didn't even know what the issue was. And he got on a plane and he flew back to Los Angeles. And he had to, for some reason, go through Los Angeles and to New York. By the time he got to Vieques, he'd been traveling 36 hours straight, and he was exhausted. He also didn't like boats. And we immediately got on a boat, and we went down to the little island, or to the little dock in Vieques. There was a lot of press there. The whole world press was there. And the fishermen on the boat had baklavas on their heads, so you couldn't see their faces, because they'd all been arrested before. Every time you get arrested, you get a bigger penalty. The numbers on their boats were painted out, so there's no way to identify them. There were two boats. One of the boats already had a group of people in it. They were the band Menudo, if you remember them. And then our boat, and me, Eddie Olmos, and Dennis Rivera, the union head, we left the harbor with an escort from the Puerto Rican police who were on our side. But as soon as we got out of the harbor, there was a Coast Guard cutter out there. We could see the naval gunships in the distance throwing bombs onto Vieques. And there was a Coast Guard cutter that was expecting us, and they dropped a bunch of Zodiacs into the water with men on board who were in flak jackets with automatic weapons, and they came to turn us around. They caught the Menudo band and turned them back into the harbor. But our guy was a desperado, and we went on a 12-mile chase with them pointing their guns and ordering us to heave to two Zodiacs. He knew where all the coral heads were, and he ran them both aground. And then they sent a helicopter to chase us and pound us with its skags. And they were screaming at us on a megaphone. But we got to the beach, and we knew that there were soldiers coming to arrest us. So Eddie said, let's go hide. When we got to the beach, the Navy stopped bombing. So he said, let's go hide in the bushes and make them take a long time to find us, and maybe the Navy won't bomb. So we all went 3 different directions. There was a helicopter chasing us, trying to keep track. Eddie fell asleep under a tree. And I went and hid in a mangrove swamp, and I dug a hole, and I covered myself with sticks. And the soldiers came through, and they were saying, Mr. Kennedy. They knew it was me. One of them put his boot right next to my head, but I didn't say anything. And they couldn't find me, so finally they sent dogs in, and the dogs found me. And they got us all out. I'm gonna make this, I only have 3 minutes left. Anyway, we were handcuffed. We were put in a dog kennel for 24 hours. They beat up a congressman there who they didn't know was Congressman Luis Gutierrez from Chicago. We were all in the cage. They sprayed us with pepper spray, and that was a bad experience. They beat up the congressman, then they put us all on a boat and shipped us off to the mainland. And then we had to sit in a holding cell for 10 hours with a poured concrete bench around the side and just one piece of furniture, which was a toilet, in the middle of the cell. There were 30 men, and it was, if you wanted to go to the bathroom, you had a lot of people watching you. We then went, Eddie, I, and Dennis were called out at the same time. And they told us to line up. They fingerprinted us, took our mug shots, and they told us to line up and take off all our clothes. And then they said to us, okay, turn around and bend over and spread your cheeks. And Eddie, who we really hadn't talked to much, turned to Dennis and me and say, hey guys, lose my number. Like, never call me again for any reason. And then we ended up in jail. Mario Cuomo represented me in my trial. Benicio del Torres came, his father, who we became very close to. Jesse Jackson was there, Nancy Pelosi was there, many other well-known politicians came to our trial. I ended up getting 30 days, including 4 days in solitary confinement. Eddie, when he got into the, we were in a cell block with 140 men. 60 of them were political prisoners from Villegas. The rest of them were pretty hardened criminals. They were gang members, etc. Eddie did something that nobody had ever seen before, which is he went to every cell and introduced himself to the people who lived in the residents. And the thing is that Eddie had starred in a movie called American Me, where he plays a Latin King's, a murderous Latin King leader. And a lot of the prisoners who met him that day, they had all seen the movie, but they were a little confused about whether he was an actor or he was the real guy. And he looks like a mean guy. So he got very well treated for the rest of the time that we were in jail. While we were in jail, 2 weeks after we come in, my wife brings me my new baby who I'd never seen before. And that was Aiden. His name now is Aiden Villegas Kennedy. He's still a big hero in Puerto Rico, and when we go down there, he never buys anything for himself. But Eddie, that same day, a woman named Linari Nadal had gone to Eddie's house in Los Angeles to meet his mother. She showed up there one day, and she said to his mother, I'm a former Miss Puerto Rico. I'm an actress and a model. I want to thank you for what your son is doing for my people. And I'd like you to give him this picture of me, which had her number on the back. And it was a very, very beautiful picture. And that day, she gave it to Eddie at the Visitor's Day on Saturdays, and he brought it back to his cell, and he was looking at that picture for 3 weeks. And the day that he got out, he called the telephone number on the back. And he got Linari on the phone, and as it turns out, the two of them were going to be in Boston the first weekend of September. So we got out in August, end of August. The first weekend of September and Eddie was doing an art exhibit of Hispanic photography at the Peabody Museum at Harvard. So he said, why don't we meet there? He picked her up at Logan Airport, and they immediately fell in love at first sight. But they never kissed each other the entire weekend. But they stayed together the entire time. She came and helped him MC and host this event, and it was a great success. He was going to go back on Tuesday, but she needed to go back Monday because she had an audition. And he said, why don't you stay till Tuesday so we can go back together? And she said, no, you come back with me. And Eddie's very responsible. He never blows off anything. But he was so smitten by her that he said, I'll go back with you. And he told the Peabody Museum he couldn't stay for the last day. He got on that plane home. And then there was nothing heard of those two for the next 48 hours. But he still has the ticket of the plane that he was on, which left on Tuesday morning. And that was the plane that hit the World Trade Center. So if I hadn't, this is a point that I've made to him many, many times, that if I hadn't gotten him arrested, he would have been on that plane. And so I have not called Eddie yet to see if he's going to support my campaign. But I feel like I saved his life. And I got him with this woman who he then married, who was very hot. And so I feel like I'm going to get a good response from that. Oh, I thought that would be funner of you, for you, and a celebration of my son's birthday, to tell you that story today. And I want to tell you that the issues that you're concerned about are issues that have been next to my heart, mi alma, mi corazón, for all of my life, and that as president, they are going to be one of my top priorities, and I look forward to working with all of you from the White House. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy, and also thank you to Ms. Williamson and Mayor Suarez. So, just a couple more seconds, folks. I want to express my personal appreciation to the boards of directors of NALEO and NALEO Educational Fund, President Luby Navarro, Chair Alejandra Sotelo Solis, and especially to my colleagues, the staff of the NALEO Educational Fund, for making this the best job anybody can have. And I also want to thank all of you for coming to my birthday party. I mean the NALEO 40th Annual Conference in New York City. Thank you again for joining us for this conference, our second one in person. We're delighted to have been joined by so many of you. We look forward to seeing all of you throughout the year in our programs that we provide to our NALEO members. And we look forward to seeing you next June 18th through the 20th, 2024 at the Bellagio in Las Vegas, Nevada. Please, safe travels home, and thank you for all you do in service to our nation. Thank you.